Welcome back everyone to Hidden History Stories. In today's episode, we're uncovering the dramatic clash between two worlds, the explorer who named the Pacific Ocean and the warrior who refused to bow. This is the story of Ferdinand Magellan's final battle and the man who changed history, Lapu-Lapu. Every story from the past holds a lesson, and this one shows how courage and strategy can defy even the mightiest empires. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it with anyone who loves exploring the past. And let me know in the comments whose side would you have chosen on the shores of Mactan. Your support keeps these hidden stories alive. Now, let's begin. Picture this. The most famous explorer in history, the man who gave the Pacific Ocean its name, bleeding out in shallow tropical water as bamboo spears pierce his armor. This isn't how Ferdinand Magellan expected to die. But here's the thing: on April 27, 1521, on a small Philippine island most people have never heard of, everything changed. The age of exploration met its match, and it wasn't pretty. Let me take you back to that morning. The humidity is crushing, the kind that makes steel armor feel like a furnace. Magellan stands on his flagship, staring across the water at Mactan Island. He's 41 years old, weathered by 2 years of the most insane journey in human history. Think about what this man had already survived. Mutinies in Patagonia where his own officers tried to kill him. Navigating a strait so treacherous, it nearly destroyed his fleet. Crossing an ocean so vast, his men thought they'd sail off the edge of the world. Now here's where it gets interesting. Just weeks before, Magellan had pulled off what seemed like his greatest diplomatic victory. In nearby Cebu, he'd convinced the local ruler, Raja Humabon, to convert to Christianity and bow to Spanish authority. Mass baptisms, Spanish flags flying, the whole imperial package. But there was one problem. And problems, as you'll see, have a way of getting explorers killed. Datu Lapu-Lapu of Mactan Island wasn't having any of it. When Magellan's messengers arrived demanding submission, Lapu-Lapu's response was simple: laughter. Not exactly the diplomatic answer Magellan was hoping for. Here's what you have to understand about Magellan at this point. Success had made him reckless. He'd sailed farther than any European in history. He'd seen wonders no one back in Spain would believe. He'd convinced himself that European technology made him unstoppable. Picture this scene: 60 armored Spanish soldiers loading into small boats at 3 in the morning. Their destination? A beach where 500 warriors are waiting for them. The odds? About 25 to 1. But Magellan wasn't worried. He had crossbows, muskets, and steel swords. What could possibly go wrong? Now, here's where our story takes a turn that would change history forever. Antonio Pigafetta, a Venetian scholar traveling with the expedition, watched from one of those boats as they cut through dark water toward Mactan. Years later, he'd write that the silence was broken only by the soft splash of oars and the quiet clink of armor. These men had no idea they were rowing toward disaster, but Lapu-Lapu knew they were coming. As the Spanish boats approached shore, torches began flickering to life among the trees. War cries echoed across the water, not panicked screams, but organized battle calls. The worst was still to come. The first Spanish musket shots cracked like thunder across the water. Muzzle flashes lit up the beach for split seconds. Acrid gunpowder smoke mixed with humid tropical air as Magellan's men waded ashore, their heavy armor making them clumsy in the surf. Here's what Magellan expected: terror, chaos. Indigenous warriors running in fear from the thunderous European weapons they'd never seen before. Here's what actually happened. The Mactan warriors emerged from the jungle with disciplined precision. They'd seen European weapons before. They'd prepared for this moment. What they carried would shock you. Hardwood spears that could punch through Spanish armor. razor-sharp Campollan swords, and most devastatingly, bamboo lances with fire-hardened points that turned European steel into Swiss cheese. But the real genius was their strategy. Instead of meeting European armor head-on, they used mobility and numbers to isolate individual soldiers. Then they swarmed them. Picture this nightmare scenario. You're wearing 60 pounds of metal armor in crushing tropical heat. Your crossbow is useless in close combat. Your heavy sword feels like it weighs a ton. And everywhere you look, warriors are moving faster than you can turn your head. Meanwhile, far out in deeper water, Magellan's ship sat helplessly. The tide had gone out, leaving the Spanish boats stranded in shallow water too far from shore to help. Magellan found himself in every military commander's worst nightmare: outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and trapped with no escape route. But here's where it gets truly terrifying for the Spanish. The battle turned into desperate chaos. European military tactics, perfected on the plains of Europe, crumbled against highly mobile opponents who knew every rock and tide pool on that beach. Pigafetta, though wounded himself, kept watching and mentally recording everything. He saw Spanish soldiers stripped of their armor by overwhelming numbers. He watched crossbowmen abandon their weapons for swords in hand-to-hand combat. And then came the moment that would echo through history. Ferdinand Magellan made his last stand in the surf where he'd expected easy victory. The man who'd dreamed of glory and riches, who'd convinced the Spanish court to fund his impossible westward journey to the Spice Islands, was fighting for his life against warriors whose courage matched his own. The end came with brutal swiftness. A bamboo spear found the gap in Magellan's armor at his left leg. He stumbled to his knees in the surf, seawater mixing with blood. As he struggled to rise, more spears found their mark. The great navigator, the man who'd survived Atlantic storms, navigated uncharted Pacific waters, overcome impossible obstacles, fell on a beach, half a world from his Portuguese homeland. Now here's what makes this moment so significant. Lapu-Lapu's warriors swarmed over the fallen Spanish captain, ensuring the man who'd come to conquer their island would never rise again. When dawn fully broke over Mactan Island, the beach told a story no one in Europe would want to hear. Spanish armor and weapons lay scattered in the sand alongside the bodies of men who'd sailed farther from home than any previous generation. But the worst news was still to come. Of 60 men who'd landed with Magellan, only a handful managed to escape back to the ships. The expedition was suddenly leaderless in hostile waters thousands of miles from home. Picture being one of those survivors. You've just watched your legendary captain die. You're wounded, exhausted, and surrounded by people who want you dead. Your only chance of survival is completing a journey around the world that's never been done before. Here's what happened next that would amaze you. The surviving crew members, led by Juan Sebastián Elcano, eventually completed the circumnavigation. They finished Magellan's dream, even while mourning his death. When they finally limped back to Spain in 1522, they proved the earth could be circled by sea. But for Lapu-Lapu and the people of Mactan, victory meant something even more profound. They'd proven European military technology wasn't invincible. Indigenous peoples could resist foreign conquest when they fought smart on familiar terrain. Now here's why this battle changed everything. The Battle of Mactan became the first major defeat of European forces in Southeast Asia. It shattered the myth of European invincibility and inspired generations of resistance against colonial rule. But there's an even bigger picture here. Two worlds had collided on that beach, expanding European empires meeting established Philippine kingdoms. The outcome proved that technological superiority has limits when facing determined defenders who know their homeland. Here's what's truly remarkable about this story. Magellan's death didn't end the age of exploration, it transformed it. His expedition's completion of the first circumnavigation opened possibilities for global trade and cultural exchange that we still benefit from today. Yet the manner of his death served as a warning that would echo through centuries. The peoples of Asia and the Pacific wouldn't passively accept European domination. Picture this final image: a small tropical island where an ambitious explorer met his match against a warrior chief who refused to surrender his people's freedom. The fire across the water that claimed Ferdinand Magellan's life became a beacon of resistance. That beacon still burns today, reminding us that even the most powerful empires can founder on the courage of those who fight for their homeland. Sometimes the greatest victories belong not to those who travel the farthest, but to those who stand their ground when it matters most. And that, my friends, is how a little-known island in the Philippines changed the course of world history forever. That was the end of the story of Ferdinand Magellan, the explorer who named the Pacific, but met his match on the shores of Mactan against the warrior Lapu-Lapu. If you found this story fascinating, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss more hidden history stories.